to the Lawsmyth, where we simplify the law. So today this is a continuation from our last episode on death, funeral and estate planning. We got a lot of questions from you, so we just want to use this opportunity to try and answer these questions. Remember, it's not a one-size-fits-all, so Jibola will do his best to give some comfort here. So first question up was based on the fact that you said you own nothing. A viewer wanted to find out what happens in the event that your wife precedes you.
If my wife precedes me, then unfortunately, it means that I'm back in the driver's seat. But ultimately, ordinarily, if it went the way it was supposed to go, and I went before my wife, it means that if everything belonged to my wife, invariably, it is my wife's children that will be able to inherit from her. So
to clear that, your wife dies, things that have name, how does that come to you?
Could revert to me, revert back to me as a spouse under the Marriage Act, and also because she has children, they will be expected to get the inheritance from my wife.
Another question was, is there a possibility if you were dealing with adult children for them to contest that with you?
Contest me getting
the things back. So here you are, before everything was between her and the kids, now she's gone, you are still alive, but
I wouldn't contest with my children.
Not you contesting, the kids contesting with you. Is that, yes?
If the mother doesn't have a will, if the mother doesn't have a will, and she's not specific, the law still acknowledges that I am entitled to a third of, under the Marriage Act, I'm entitled to a third of my property, and the children get 2/3.
Okay, so there would actually be no contest then, because everybody would get a piece
under the
of
Marriage
pie.
Act.
Yes, everybody would get a piece of pie. Okay. So
except she has children that we don't know about, that shows up.
Very funny. Who is going to do the DNA here?
Exactly.
Very funny. So the next question had to do with, in the event that you pass on again before she in the event that you pass on and the what do you call it, the goods were in her name,
yes,
but you didn't let her know that there was a child, what happens? Let's say you had a child somewhere else.
It's very unlikely that I have.
Okay, so we're just using you, we're riding on the back of your story. Okay,
so assuming. First of all, because I would never put my wife in that kind of place.
Okay, yes, we're assuming. Sorry to go that.
Okay, so, but if I had a child out of wedlock, I would do the most un-Nigerian thing.
Okay.
And I would introduce my child to my family from the start, so that there will not be any conflict. And going forward, I would make provisions. And as a matter of fact, if everything is in my wife and my other children's name, I am obligated to make provision for that child separately.
Okay, so that is what you are also telling, that's what you're telling men now. As part of the estate planning, we need to come clean.
It's very important.
Okay, so come clean, and therefore that would make the estate planning much better.
It's easier.
Okay, so one of these questions isn't related to the funeral one, but it actually had to do with the work-life balance. And someone wanted to know that, could we, wanted more examples of how they could actually integrate that into their lives. That did we have some exercises that, they could do in that enclosed space?
As much as possible, find a sport or activity that you like that gives you peace. So from sports to stamp collecting, everything is okay. As long as you are getting peace and you are happy in that particular space and it's relaxing.
Okay,
I don't want to recommend to go and swim once a day, or go and play squash, or go and play tennis, or go jogging. We all know what to do, and everybody's circumstances are different as regards their health. Some people might be struggling with mental health.
Yeah.
Some people might be struggling with physical infirmities. I've not even come to talking about when you have children that have these infirmities, because that's a whole different conversation. When you have children who are on the autism spectrum, or are physically challenged or disabled, or what people normally call disabled, there are certain provisions that you need to have for them as regards estate planning.
Okay, I think one also would be use the steps.
Use the steps. It's right up your alley. Well, most buildings have steps. Use the steps. Do some exercise. Move some muscle. I think 20 minutes on the computer, 20 minutes off. They say you may not have the luxury, but turning away from the computer is a good thing. Standing up sometimes to do your work, walking around. They're just looking for practical things they can do in the workspace. Drink lots of water.
Okay, so this is not a health show.
You told them to balance their work life, and people are really anxious about that because they almost feel as if, okay, yes, you brought up the issue that they don't have this work-life balance. It will affect their long-term, health goals for their estate planning, which is true because you don't want it to fall down and die.
But you also have to contend with the fact that remember that work-life balance has to do with the agreements that you have with your employer.
Mm-hmm.
That is the legal part of it.
Exactly.
So you need to caution yourself and say, look, what you have to set limits on what is it I'm going to take from my employer, or what is it as an employer I'm going to give my employees.
Okay, so we should appeal more to the employers actually.
Employers, it's the same thing.
Okay, so there's a question from the second episode, which had to do with DNA.
And somebody flipped the question around and says, what if it was, the DNA thing we're talking about is the woman, the man discovers that his first kid or one of his kids is not his own, so the DNA comes in. And the question now was, women that come on the day, for example, that the man dies and says, oh, these are his kids, shouldn't those children too be subjected to a DNA test, given that the father is gone?
Of course.
Okay, so, but then there's also the narration there that, two women come with 3 children each, probably look like the man. Why would we want to subject them to a DNA test?
I believe that the DNA test is very necessary. If the man had not told you that these are my children, and in fact, sometimes when the man says these are my children, and if he says these are my children and leaves them in the will, it's very hard to contest that.
Yes.
But if he says these are my children and doesn't leave them in the will, his existing family, so to say, can insist on the DNA. Because you never can know whether the father himself was hoodwinked to believing that was his child.
So is there any law that is protecting these children in the second scenario?
The second children?
Yes, the second scenario where you said he's recognized them but they're not in the will, and people will come and say, oh, you must have a DNA test.
It's the same thing that we spoke about when you say somebody comes and says because he has looked after a child all his life that you should, for some reason, put the child in your will. But you're not obligated to look after the child. There's nobody who's obligated to look after anybody that you don't feel that they are your biological children or you feel an affinity towards. Okay,
I would still, ask the question then, how then does the Child Rights Act come into this? Because the Child Rights Act came in to try and safeguard the exploitation of children and the abandonment of children, especially.
You can fight all you like. My property is my property. There is no way that I'm looking after some children and then the Lord will never require me to go and look after children that are not my own.
Okay, so we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. I hope some of the questions, you're clear on them. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. Jibola, so continuing with the questions. Now, someone asked a question about personal relationships. They want you to, put that in context with people who want to get married. That we spoke a lot more about, personal relationships, friendships. That we spoke about people who want to get married. And how does that look in terms of being deliberate and estate planning?
We hear always on the streets, don't marry a poor guy, don't marry a poor girl, don't marry a girl that is from this tribe, don't marry a girl that's from that tribe. Everybody will choose the peculiarities that they want to live with in their marriage. That's the only option that you have at that point in time. So you better, as we say in Nigeria, you shine your eye where when you want to decide who you want to marry. You can't just decide that, oh, and most of that is what usually happens to most people when they just decide, oh, I'm in love, I'm marrying. But they do not take a good measure of all the different situations. Is the person working? Is he mentally fit? Is he physically fit? What is his family upbringing like? Are they very nice people? Are they disciplinarians? Are they stubborn? Did they have a cooker growing up in their house? Or did they have an AC? Some people, the first time they came to Lagos is when they saw AC. So you need to have all this amalgam together in one place and then do a SWOT analysis for yourself.
Very good. I like the SWOT analysis.
So you need to do analysis of
strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
And you say, what are the things that are involved in this situation here before I decide to marry this person? So does the person have good prospects? What passport does he carry? What is the entire net worth of himself and his family? Are they going to be an asset or a liability?
So there's no room here for just love?
Not anymore. Not in estate plan.
Okay, so what does the person bring to the table too? Would that be
exactly?
Okay.
So what are you bringing to the table? You are bringing your love to the table.
Well, I thought there's a place still for love in the world.
Yes, bring it.
Okay, so in personal relationships, it almost sounds mechanical. Having to go through all that. But
life is mechanical. At the end of the day, what I provide for you and what you provide for me is the basis of why we will be together.
Bottom line, it's a partnership.
It's a partnership.
It's a partnership. What do you bring? This is what I bring. Can you?
And it must be quantifiable.
And at this point, that means here, men have to learn then to be more open about their dealings.
And women also have to learn how to assess men properly.
Okay, could you expatiate on that?
Sometimes you see most women are taken in by, forgive me, it happens to men also. There's what in the Yoruba people call Momo Babalowo syndrome. Okay. Momo Babalowo syndrome means you are going to marry the child of a rich person. So you don't know what those persons, you've seen the outside. So it takes time to study people to know, and you went to marry a rich man or a rich woman, and certain things that you can't live with then come up in the future. I can tell you a simple one that happened. I'm going to give you a very practical example of what we're talking about marriages. So I've been married for over 20 years, and before I married my wife, I had never slept in a room that was dark.
Okay. Okay. Now you're married and she sleeps
in the
lights
dark.
off.
So right now, 20 years after, I can't sleep with the lights on.
Okay, so you've acclimatized.
I had to.
Okay.
So there are certain things that they can be irritable to the point that, in fact, when light on or light off can destroy a marriage.
Or AC on.
Or AC off.
Yeah.
Oh, you are the AC.
I'm the AC.
So you need to discuss all these things in an interpersonal relationship before you decide, come, I'm going to wear socks to bed. I'm going to wear a full
winter outfit.
Or sometimes, excuse me, I don't wear. You know what I mean. So basically, you need to have all these agreements. This is how much we are going to save. If we have the last 10 naira, what do we do? We use it to eat or to solve. So you need to have a plan for everything across your life. When are we buying this? When are we buying that? Where are we buying this? Where are we buying that? Where do you choose to live? Where don't you choose to live? Which school do we want? What kind of kids do we want? How do we want our kids to be brought up? So all those things go into the interpersonal relationship between you and your spouse before you get married. That you need to.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you another funny story.
Okay.
I had a friend who woke up one day and he went to a party and he met a girl that he liked. He liked the girl at the party and he simply said, oh, this is a fantastic woman. And he called and said, excuse me, I would like to marry you. Straight up at the party, I said, please let's leave this party and let's go and make a list of your do's and don'ts and likes and likes. So we'll do it. And they held the summit for 6 hours.
Wow.
They left the party, had the summit for 6 hours, and decided that they wanted to marry. They got married in the next 3 months. And they've been married for over 20-something odd years till today.
So you've heard it from the expert.
Just like I also had another friend who had a mail order bride sent to him from Nigeria. He came to Nigeria, spoke to the girl, and had a summit with her as well. I said, I want this, I don't want that, I have this. And the woman said she wants, and it made an agreement of what they wanted. And my friend came back and married her, and now they've been living in America for the past 7 years.
And so the underlying thing here is that once you have, the boxes checked, the next step is, our assets, how do we grow it for our children, how do we grow it for ourselves, how does it work for us going forward. So we've heard it from Jibola, our resident expert. I hope we've answered your questions, well enough for you to be able to take your decisions. And so thank you once more, and we're signing out right now. So thank you, see you next episode. Bye.